Who never dreamt of flying? All over the world, one finds stories where a bird, often an eagle or a vulture, helps a man to come down from a high cliff or to get out of a cave. Also, the battle between the eagle and the serpent has captured our imagination. It's often a real battle in nature, as you see here in the image. The Etana myth is one of the oldest recorded myths, dating back approximately 3,700 years. This episode will tell how many myth motifs adapt and evolve as they travel through time and across cultures. We'll explore how the Babylonian story evolved into a Greek moral fable and later transformed into a fairy tale that is widespread in Eurasia. We'll trace the journey of the Etana myth. It will reveal some key mechanisms of motif transformation, simplification, but also complexification. The Etana story is known from Babylonian and Assyrian tablets dating from 1770 to 660 BCE. So it was written down on tablet for over 1,000 years. All the seals with motif likely linked to Etana suggest an even earlier origin of the myth. Seals with related iconographies were also found in Susa, in today's Iran, and in the Bactria margiana in modern Turkmenistan and northern Afghanistan. So the Etana myth is really one of the rare instances where one can follow the early transformation in structure and some of the early travel of the story. Transformation within the Mesopotamian records are well studied. Our focus will be on the myth's later transformation. But first, let's summarize the Etana myth. First, an eagle and a serpent swear friendship, but the eagle breaks the oath by eating the serpent's young. The serpent asks the sun god for advice, and his advice is hide inside a wild bull carcass and wait for the eagle. The eagle comes to feed on the carcass and is seized, and the serpent throws the eagle into a pit for a very long time. Then we come to the second part of the story. Etana, the king, wants an heir, and he prays to Shamash for a son. Shamash answers and directs Etana to seek out the eagle and to take care of him. Etana takes care of the eagle until he can fly again, and in return, the eagle helps Etana finding the plant of birth of plant of fertility. Finally, Etana is transported on the eagle's back to the sky to search for the plant of fertility. Etana is most likely represented on the eagle on the top left of this rolled seal. Let's look at the first known transformation of the Etana story outside of Mesopotamia. A Greek fable attributed to Archilochus, which is an early Greek poet from the island of Paros, was active in the 7th century BC. It reproduced the first part of Etana's story between a fox and an eagle. Archilochus is one of the earliest known Greek poets after Homer and Hesiod, and Aesop recollected the story of the fox and the eagle, and it's now part of Aesop's fables that have survived to this day. Aesop is largely seen as a collector of ancient fable nowadays. Recall that the latest known version of the Etana story dates to the 7th century BCE, the period when Archilochus composed his fable. And this coincides with a period in Greece where Near Eastern influence were particularly strong. Most scholars agree that the Etana myth has inspired the story in one way or another. Our evidence for the fox and the eagle is not just a late recollection of Aesop, but also fragments of the story found on an ancient papyrus. What is interesting, in both the Etana myth and the fox and eagle fable, a friendship was betrayed by the eagle. The eagle befriends the fox, but later devours the young one. The victims, the fox and the serpent, similarly ask God for revenge and get it. The fox prayed to the gods for justice. Then one day during a sacrifice, as some meat was burning on an altar, the eagles came and stole the meat for his chicks. But the meat was so hot that as soon as the chicks ate it, they died. Revenge was fulfilled. The fable then traveled to Egypt, most likely brought by the Greeks during a period of Greek influence. In this old illustration from the 15th century in South Germany, one sees a fox and the eagle with their young one. The fable illustrates the transformation of part of a complex myth into a fable. The fable is a simple narrative between animals with a moral character, contrary to Etana, which is about the establishment of royalty and represent a complex story. Many motifs are preserved. Interesting, a similar story is found in India. But this time, one essential motif is inverted. In Etana and the Greek fable, an eagle eats a young fox or the serpent. But in ancient India, the snake threatened the eagle. The fable is recorded in the Panchatantra, a Sanskrit collection of animals fables that is around 2000 years old. Here the cobra eats the chicks of the crows. The crow steals the jewel from the king and drops the necklace in the cobra hole. And then happen what should happen. The king's attendants kill the cobra. And here one recognizes really some of the structure of the fox and the eagle fable. Somewhat inverted, as the victim is here the crow and not the snake. What is the first part of the Etana myth evolved into animal fables? One recognizes Etana-related motifs in two widespread motif families of fairy tales. In the first one, the serpent tricks of hiding in a carcass for revenge evolves into a new story. A man hides in a carcass to be transported by a giant bird. Different versions often retain parallels to the Etana myth, featuring a hero who seeks a treasure, and the treasure replaces a fertility plant. And the hero is betrayed by a companion, mirroring the eagle's betrayal. The second family of fairy tales, in which Etana helps the eagle and is carried to the sky, is integrated into the plot of popular fairy tales. The hero saves a bird young from a serpent, and in gratitude, the parent bird transports the hero to his destination. This motif is notably used in a widespread family of tales known as the Three Princesses. So, how did the motifs and the story evolve afterwards? Key to understanding how the motif transformed comes from a lesser known Greek story recorded by the mythographer Conon around 2000 years ago. He wrote a story whose core remains very popular today in fairy tales over vast territories. Conon tells the story of two shepherds near Ephesus who discovered a treasure in a deep, inaccessible cave. One shepherd descended and put the gold in a basket. His companion betrayed him, cutting the rope and leaving him trapped at the bottom of the cave. In a dream, the god Apollo instructed the shepherd to slash his own body with a sharp rock. After he did so, vulture, attracted by the bloody flesh, descended and lifted him from the cave to safety. The rescued shepherd returned to Ephesus, where the traitor was punished. The gold served to build a monument to Apollo in gratitude. The story of Conon shares fundamental elements with the Etana myth, namely the betrayal by a companion and the transport of a man by a bird. However, it introduced two new important components. First, there is the discovery of a hidden treasure in a cave, which replaces the plant of fertility. And second, there is the motif of the hero self-mutilating to attract the vulture. Story is a good example of how a story can evolve by including new motifs. While the fable was a major simplification, Conon's story is a complexification of the fable. The two new motifs remain central to most existing stories, with Etana-related motifs found throughout Eurasia. After Conon, most Etana-related recorded stories are set in a cave rather than in the sky. The origin of the self-mutilation motif is really mysterious. Was the hero's self-mutilation simply a smart trick invented by Conon? Or was it inspired by the Scythian and Zoroastrian culture, where corpses were often left outside to be eaten by birds? Or did an ancient Indian story inspire it? Let's explore that last possibility. Self-sacrifice is honored in India, shows the story of the rabbit self-sacrificing in the Rabbit on the Moon tale. Also in an ancient Indian story, the king Sibi, which is Buddha in a previous life, gave his flesh to a hawk to save a dove from being eaten. The story is represented in the famous cave of Mogao in northwest China along the Silk Road. You see here the entrance of the table and the location on the map. Can we find some more elements that reinforce the links in today's distribution of Etana-related motifs? Well, let's examine the distribution here. The motif of a human giving his own flesh to feed a bird is widespread in Eurasia and represented here by the blue-green diamonds. The motif's origins remains uncertain. The motif is foreign to ancient Mesopotamia, but widespread in Europe and northern Eurasia. The second motif corresponds to the motif of a snake threatening the nestling, a hero helping them, and a grateful eagle carrying the hero to his destination. The motif is found alone mostly in India. There are the magenta dots. But the red dots show the tradition with shared motifs. And they show a trail from Mesopotamia to the steppe region, where Etana-related motifs have survived to this day. It's quite amazing distance. Now, looking back at this almost 4,000 years journey, confirm that it's not the complete stories that travel, but the motifs. We've discovered that motifs can vary depending on the context. First, a motif can be inverted. We saw this in the Indian story. The role from Etana myth were flipped and the bird became the snake victim. Also, a motif can be adapted to new narrative needs. Our analysis suggests the transformation of the Mesopotamian serpent hiding inside a carcass for revenge into the motif of a hero hiding in a carcass to be transported by a bird. Finally, motifs can be combined to create a more complex and powerful motif. The original motif of a rescue by a great bird was combined with the hero giving his own flesh motif. And this combination, entirely absent from the Mesopotamian original, survived alongside Etana-related motifs in large regions of Eurasia. This transformation, inversion, adaptation, and combination are mechanisms that allow narratives ID to cross desert, mountains, century, and civilization. They are what connect ancient Babylonian stories to fairy tales still retold today. The next episode will be about the eagle in the sky. In ancient Mesopotamia, scholars identified a constellation containing most of the stars that now form what we call Aquila, the eagle. We'll follow Aquila and its main star, Altair, across the world. And here's the main references if you want to dig into that topic. See you next time. Bye bye.